Welcome to Superhuman Customs, everybody. I'm your host, Stephen Human. Today we got something cool. We're gonna do Wolverine maskless. Now, this body was a red hood. I don't care about red hood. We use the hood for Green Arrow. We use the head for War Machine. We're gonna take this head and we're gonna make an unmasked Wolverine. This head came from that lot that I got from Dale. I think it's an Aquaman. I'm not sure, but we are gonna make it a maskless Wolverine. This is gonna turn out awesome. Let's move. Originally, I thought this whole X thing was going to be a little bit easier to pull off, but finding a flat cape is hard. And I need something that's obviously pliable, and so the cape material is the best. So what I've decided is that this Batman one, because it has a really good sort of fabric-y texture in here, and I can use these lines as if they're seams and just natural. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to cut across here, flatten it, and then we'll cut it so that it matches, so that it's got the X, and we'll see. Maybe this will fail and we'll have to use a different cape or a different material altogether, but hopefully this works. Moment of truth. So I cut the V in. So basically it's going to go like so. And I think that's going to work. So I just need to match these and cut them in. So fingers crossed, everybody. Now I've been trying to decide exactly what kind of version of Wolverine this is going to be, and I'm planning on making him look more like the Grant Morrison version from New X-Men from about, I don't know, God, it's been probably almost 25 years now. I really like that version. That's one of my favorite times of the X-Men in the comics. It felt like an actual real evolution of who they were. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint all of this black, but we're going to do, unlike the one I did before, the Wolverine, where I just kept it black because I liked it, I'm going to make this more of a blue. So I'll do a dark blue highlight over the top of it, and then we'll turn this yellow, because that's what he had in one of the comics. Most of them he had like an open jacket with no shirt on. This one you'll have, there is one where he's got the standard blackish blue and then the yellow X. So that's what we're gonna go with. I think he'll end up looking really cool. For me, the difference in material is really important, and oftentimes it's just really subtle. So what I've decided to do with the pants is I am not painting them with the same black. I'm just painting them with my wash. So that it'll make them so they look like they're black, but it won't look like it's the exact same material. Now, I don't know whether this is really gonna matter at the end of the day, because I am gonna do a blue over the top of both. But for now, that's kind of what I want. I want it to look dark. I want it to look like it's black, but I want it to look more like a jean instead of leather. So that is what I'm gonna do. It's personal choice. You can do it however you want. There are a couple things I could do here with the X that we're gonna turn yellow. Is that I could paint it white and then do the yellow over the top. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually do the yellow now. Because what that's gonna do is I want this to look like leather that's been painted, not necessarily like how it is in the comics where it's super bright. I'll do 2 coats, but I want it to have a more, like, okay, this is yellow leather. This is leather that's been dyed, or, you know, however they, honestly, I don't know how they color leather. I know leather doesn't usually come out yellow. So, but I want it to look like that. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go over, yellow is a very liquidy paint just naturally, at least the ones that I've got, from both Vallejo and all the craft paints I've ever tried. And I'm gonna try and do this so that it looks nice and natural. Because I was disappointed with that Cyclops I did. You guys remember a couple years ago I did a Cyclops in this, from this same comic series. And to this day, I'm just a little bit disappointed with how the yellows turned out. So we'll see if this gives me more what I'm kind of after. One thing I'm going to go do differently from the comics and stuff is I'm going to paint these yellow too. You know, Wolverine usually has some yellow in just different places on his body. This is a version that's never quite been in existence, so I can do whatever I want. So I'm going to turn these yellow as well. I think he's going to look pretty cool at the end of the day. Honestly, yellow is probably my least favorite color to paint with ever. I honestly hate it because it's so thin and hard to get to look right. Like I'm actually adding a little bit of neon on some of these edges to make them stand out a little bit. And it's just frustrating to use. So I'm trying to go through as best I can. Here it's looking pretty good with the regular yellow because I wanted it to have more of the leather look, and so the fact that it's still got some darkness in there, that I think looks pretty cool. But adding this lighter to these fringes and stuff is not bringing me joy. Since this guy's already got kind of a flesh tone to him, I'm not going to worry about doing a red base coat. I'm just going to go over the top with my standard flesh tone. And we'll do what we've done with some of these other ones where we get it in place and then we add a little bit of brown wash and start adding the highlights that way. So that's what I'm going to do. Now I've got the head mounted and I'm going to take some of the brown wash. I'm going to go over some of these areas. And I can go over light or I can go over a little bit heavier because I'm going to dry brush some more flesh tone over the top. But what I want to make sure to do is to highlight all these areas because it'll allow me to make things look a little bit more real. That's what I'm after. I've gone through and I've added the dry brush to the face. I might go back and do a little bit more detail work on it. It's kind of hard to tell since everything is kind of running together right now between the hair and the flesh. There's not enough contrast to really tell what needs to be done. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to paint the hair, and I'm going to do black. Obviously, Wolverine's shown with black hair, he's shown with dark brown hair. I'm going to make him more of a dark brown, but that means we got to start with black. So I'm going to go through and paint all of this. Get him going in the hair department, and then we will add the highlights. Still don't know what to do about the yellow here on the edges and down here. Still looks like crap, so we'll figure it out. What I'm doing with the sideburns, I'm taking a toothpick with a little bit of flesh tone on it and just scraping the edges and across so that it's giving it that 5 o'clock shadow look. Want it to kind of come off the face in more of a natural feel on both sides. So that's what I'm doing here. While I got the toothpick out, I might as well do his eyebrows. Nice and slow. Nice and thin. While everything else is drying, we're going to add some blue dry brush to the jacket. I want this to be more subtle, but I want it to be blue because I didn't do that the last time I did the Wolverine, when I did that one using the Batman body. And I just made him black because that was the image I'd found of a costume, and I thought it was really cool. But over time, I've wished that I'd done something more like this with a blue, because I think it would have looked cooler. So I'm just going to listen to my instincts this time and do it. Give him a nice blue tint on his coat. Before I call it a night, I'm going to experiment with adding rivets here along these things that I'm not liking because of the coloring, and see if that helps. I've done this before, and adding a few rivets helps to distract from the unevenness of the paint. And so that's what I'm going to try here. See if it works. And while I've got the gunmetal gray out and I've got some left over, I might as well use it so it doesn't go bad. And I'm going to paint in the straps here, not the straps, the buckles and stuff here on his legs. The buckles will be black, or sorry, I keep messing up that word. The straps will be black, which will help to stand out against the blue, since I decided to do the pants blue as well. And we'll see how that looks. I might then do a wash over the top of the pants to make them look different. I don't know, because right now they look pretty much exactly the same as the shirt. Now, like I said, Wolverine is sometimes shown with just straight black hair, other times dark brown hair. I want him to be dark brown on this version, just because of the fact that I've got the blue highlights here. I want the hair to stand out a little bit. So this is more of a personal choice. You can do it however you want your Wolverine to look. If you want him to have just jet black hair and you want to do some blue streaks in here, you can. That works. And the great thing is that a lot of people wouldn't use this head as a Wolverine head because it doesn't have the classic points. The great thing about the new X-Men series is that Frank Quitely didn't draw him with those points either. He drew him more like this, where his hair came down, which is much more natural. I like my Wolverine that way personally. So this head works for me really well. And I'm gonna go through and then we'll do some details and do a, kind of a look and see what else we want to do on him. Right now I'm just gonna work on details, like hitting these straps and stuff, and maybe doing some silver on the rivets down here. Just gonna kind of play it by ear and think about what I want things to look at to make them stand out. And then we'll move on to my least favorite part, which is the eyes. And we'll go through and do that. Now you can see that, there's things about this that I would do differently even now. Like these, when I put these in place, these little strap things down here, it was to hide, because it just didn't really match. And I had to put them at an angle because of the bomb or bullets or whatever these are right here. And so it looks kind of skewed. These are the sorts of things that, if I really cared, I would take them off. But then I could also say, oh, that's just how they look in real life because the jacket's doing something, you can convince yourself of whatever. But I'm not gonna tear them off and do them. I'm just gonna have to deal with the fact that that's how they're gonna look. And then take some solace in the fact that once he's on the shelf, I'm not gonna be able to see those because there's gonna be a person standing in front of him. So, you do what you want to do, what you feel is worth the time, and then you move on to something else. At least that's how I do it. Everybody's least favorite part, the eyes. I've got my magnifying glass here, and I'm gonna try and get them in there as well as possible. But there's always going to be slop. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get it in there and fill it all up. And then once it's almost dry, I'll chip it away with an X-Acto knife. And if that doesn't work, then I can obviously paint around the eyes a little bit better. But I got to make sure that it gets into the little crevices. That's the most important thing, because if you don't, then it's not going to look right. So yeah, you're going to get some slop. That's all there is to it. See? He's got a really big eye. But you got to make sure that you get in there and fill up that space and then take care of the rest in a few minutes. Here's the great thing about customizing is that if you don't like something, you can cover it up. So I've got this cape here that I'm never going to use. I'm going to cut these off and I'm going to cover them on these and then metallicize that and keep the yellow. I think that's going to look spectacular. So that is what I'm going to do, and it's going to fix these, which I am absolutely hating. And then I'll chip away the eyes a little bit, and I think we'll be ready for the claws. And here's a little secret about making eyes look a little bit more lifelike. If you take a little needle and you add a dot of white to the pupil, it'll make it look like it's reflecting the light, and it will look a little bit more realistic. So that's what I'm going to do here. Let's just add that on each of the eyes, and he'll look a little bit more alive. None of this was working for me. So I removed these things that I had put on here at the base, and I'm just going to see what it looks like with them just painted yellow like the rest and not drawing attention to themselves. Since I painted up here the top of the belt brown, there's less of a contrast between the two. So let's see. I might still end up needing to put them back on just without the other stuff I had on there. Hopefully they won't be as big, but I just was not liking the look, and it's not too late to do something about it. So I don't know if this will work either, if I'll still need to do something to hide these things, but I'd rather try it pure than try and muck it up again. So I decided it did need just a little bit of a raise, so I just put some fabric paint. I'm going to let it dry. I'll paint it yellow. I think that'll give it enough. It'll look like a seam, but it won't be too in your face. All right, this is taking an inordinate amount of time just to figure out this one little thing that's bugging me, but it is bugging me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these off of this piece of a crossbow from some other figure, and we'll have something perfect and straight to put there because I want him to look really good. So I'm frustrated this is taking so long, but I want him to be better than he looks right now. So these are just about dry, but I want to let them dry a little bit more before I paint them so that I don't mess up the paintbrushes. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna drill holes in the knuckles for these nails. And again, I think the nails are cool. You can use plastic if you want. I like that they're shiny and that they actually poke you. And I'm gonna keep, I could replace these hands with fisted hands, but I like the more casual look. Yeah, he's got the kind of pointy fingers, the gun fingers. But I do like that he's got more of a relaxed hand, and that's what I want for this Wolverine, very relaxed. So that's what we're gonna do. Let's get drilling. And there we go. Claws are in place. It's been a while since I've had something that's bugged me as much as this had. So what I've done is I didn't have any more plastic stuff that was that size, so I cut a couple of nails and we're gonna glue them in place, just kind of up above where these are. And we'll paint those yellow too. And I think that that will be a good enough end. And if not, I'm not doing anything else. So there we go. And there we have Wolverine. Now, the interesting thing about this buck is that it is a much more, without the jacket that originally came with Red Hood, it is a much more realistic body. It doesn't have the massive shoulders and the massive arms. And so he has much more of like a real life look to him. Now, maybe that's not the right look for a Wolverine that you might want to do. It might look better for like a Cyclops or something, but obviously we made a Wolverine and I think it looks really cool. It's got like a mix of comic book and movie sort of version to him. And I dig that. This is a version that's never really been out there, something that's unique, something that is just mine. And I've very rarely had as much problem as I did with these things down here. They were the most frustrating thing ever. And they still, I mean, they work. And sometimes that's the best you're gonna do. When you're doing something crazy, and you guys know that I like to do crazy stuff, I don't play it safe. I go kind of nuts. And this was just one of them, but I think he turned out pretty cool. He's definitely gonna look cool on the shelf with the other Marvel figures. And that is the number one thing that I'm after, is something that people can come in, look at my display, go, wow, that's awesome, you customized that? That's what I want. And I hope all of you are doing the same, and that you're having fun, and that you're not holding yourself to too high standards where you're just like beating yourself up, because that is not fun. And this is meant to be fun. We're meant to enjoy this. So go out and enjoy it, start customizing. I'm Stephen Human, and I'll see you guys soon.